Hello. The right tools make things so much easier. Hi there, I'm Cadence Kidwell, proprietress at Fuzzy Goat in downtown Thomasville, Georgia. You can see all that I'm talking about at fuzzygoatyarns.com. This morning, I'm gonna just kind of settle in and talk about my two projects that I've got going on and the tools I'm using. So I'm just gonna have a little chat with you about what's been making things easier. I've just been traveling, and so I took two projects with me. I always got to take two. If I get stuck on one, I think I'm more afraid of not having a project than I am of them losing my luggage. So I'm going to talk about my drawing sweater first. Let me show you what it's ultimately going to look like. Isn't that amazing? Alicia showed us this pattern, and Melissa and I are obsessed. So we're working away on this project, and it's a DK sweater, so it's really great, but I'm going to tell you, it is complicated. Yes, I'm smiling. It is complicated. I am loving the complication of it. I talked a little bit about that last time, about settling in and just really using your mind. And yes, sometimes I got to redo it and go again. So many times I've had to restart this. So I'm excited about it. I can feel the neurons firing in there, but I've got another one I'm going to show you that's just kind of my peaceful knitting also. So the first thing I did was really get my pattern ready. There's a lot going on in this pattern. So I marked out the sizes I wasn't going to use, so I didn't need those. I marked my chart. I'm using my highlighter tape. I've even got, let's see, I've kind of got the highlighter tape over a part of it here. Let me tell you too, when I use highlighter tape, I make a little tab right here where I fold over an edge of it. That makes it easier to pick up and move. Down here, I don't have one, and so it's a little harder to move. So I like to make a little tab. And so there are some symbols on one page of my chart, but it's not on every page of my chart. First of all, just take a second, look at that chart. There's no way you could do it without highlighter tape, I don't think. So I marked some of those things actually on here that I need to know. Like, I don't want to go flipping back through the chart to look to see what that little dark square means. So I wrote it on here. Those actually mean that I'm going to do a make one right. And this one is a make one left. You think I'm going to remember? You think you're going to remember? Why not make things easier for you and just write it on there? Just write it on the chart. It's not a book, just write all over it. You can always download another one. Because see, here's the legend here. And there's things I'm not doing or don't need anymore, so I cross those things off too. It just makes me feel like I'm a little bit more in control of everything here. And what else did I do that I wanted to show you? Okay, so on this chart, there's, at least on the bottom, well, all the way through, there's going to be long periods. I'm not going to want to count all the time, all through here, but if I get my first row right, that'll go a long way towards me actually making flowers instead of just weird blobs. And so I write down what those long stretches are, the numbers. So like this is 18 stitches all the way across. So I wrote that down there on the bottom. And that was really handy. But I'm getting ahead of myself because, well, that's the marking of the chart. But then I had to do my gauge. So I did do a gauge swatch. This sweater comes in two sizes. So I wasn't really in between those sizes. It was pretty firmly in the camp of one size. So I didn't need to check my gauge as much, but I did just to be sure. Because really what I did with my gauge was to make sure I liked the fabric that I was making there. So that was really important to me when there was only two sizes. What needle was I going to use that was going to make the fabric that I like? Thanks, Kay, for telling me that these are really useful tips. And Luann, thanks for the comment on the lampshade also. That was one of my COVID projects. So I used my gauge tool to check that. I'm also using interchangeable needles because this starts with this collar up around here, up at the neck, and then it gets bigger as you go, and so I can just keep the same needle size and swap out the cords, and so that's been really helpful, especially when traveling. I do check my needles except for the ones that I'm using. So if for some reason I've yet to ever have them want to take my needles, but I've not flown internationally, had the privilege of doing that, so I don't know, can't speak to that. Sometimes I hear stories of people coming back to the US and their needles, but I check my interchangeables, but I still have my tips because there's no way I'm flying without my knitting. I've heard stories of people having to prove that they know how to knit with those things. Flying back this week, I got flagged. I got put over in that theft. So, oh, they saw the needles in my bag. They're going to ask me about that. But instead, it was I got so involved in moving through and wasn't going to have to take my shoes off, and then I put my my plastic water bottle that I meant to throw away. That's what got me flagged. I'm like, oh yeah, throw that away. I didn't need that. No, we don't need to talk about my needles. But you know, ultimately, I'm glad they're keeping all of us safe. So just do it with a smile, and you'll get through. Okay, so I'm using the interchangeable needles. I'm also, when they have to dim the lights in the cabin, I was doing really well with my neck light that was all charged up and ready to go. Let me get what am I doing here? Oh, there it is. Okay, where I can do that. Oh, I got to see who's doing it. Sherry may be the first pattern she makes twice. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's really fun. So this was really great. I'm not blinding anybody by wearing it on my head and looking up at them. I really love these rechargeable lights that we have. Okay, so then I was ready to dive in. I'd done my gauge swatch. I did not do the most complicated part on the plane. I had done all of that ahead of time, gotten ready to go. The complicated part started off right away with the cast on. It needed a tubular cast on. And so there's great directions in the pattern. Melissa needed to go look at something different. I needed to go to my cast on book and look at it through there. So that was really handy to have in there. And Marcia, thank you for my scarf, the compliment. I will talk about that as we get farther along. Then I had to cast on over 100 stitches. And so I used my, let's see, do I have them here? I thought I had everything organized. I used the cast on, oh, here we go. I used the 100, the rainbow number stitch markers so that you can put them on for 25, 50, 100, and so forth until you get to there. So that was really handy because I did not want to start that tubular cast on over again. And it's one of those that once you get going, you don't want to stop because you've kind of got your method going there. That's where if somebody else, even if you're counting to 25, you don't want to start over. And that's where I have the trick of counting out loud. Anybody who's around me, if you stop to say the words, I'm counting, you lose your place. But if you start counting, keep counting, and you start counting out loud, the person who's trying to interrupt you understands what you're doing. That's just a little trick from many years of knitting around non-knitters. Okay, so then once I got going, I needed to use my beginning of the round marker, and also I've been using my progress keeper. This might be hard to see up close, but we have a little progress keeper that Katrinkles makes that says more Goat Bell on there. If you know the Will Ferrell skit, classic Will Ferrell skit from Saturday Night Live about more Goat Bell, which is a big family favorite in my house. We ring the Goat Bell here in the store when people finish their projects or even a really challenging row. We made a progress keeper that says more Goat Bell so that you can move it along feeling like you're really making progress and getting ready to have that Goat Bell run for you. So thank you, Marcia, for the color combo. Yes, I do kind of have a color palette, don't I, that I like to wear. So the beginning of the round marker has been really helpful. The progress keeper's been really helpful. Then I was using the ladder back jacquard method for carrying the yarns through here. Melissa has taught me this, and I'm going to tell you I had to restart that particular part. I don't know, I have to go back and look at my text between Melissa and I. Probably 6 or 7 times. I almost gave up and didn't want to do it at all. But I'd like to try to learn something new and try something new in almost every pattern. And so I was not going to give up. And see, it's really cool. and I didn't give up, and I finally persevered, and I finally had it. I think I sent her a text on the plane saying, I think I've got it. Part of using that method is you have little stitch markers to mark where that weird little thing is catching there, where your float is caught. So I'm using a ton of these flower stitch markers because, of course, your markers have to match your knitting, right? That's what amuses me. I like to do that. So I was using those, but then I needed a different marker, different color situation to mark the sleeves and to mark the sleeves and the other markers for each section. So then I went to the floops, and because they come in all kinds of different colors, and I was able to use those. So now when I'm cruising along and I come to a floop, I know that I'm now in a different section. Nylene gets me. She knows she's got to have how to have things coordinate. And Sherry, we're going to see if Melissa's ready to teach a class on this because it was mind-boggling. But once you get it, it's like it just feels so good. That's why I love to knit complicated things. Okay, so now not only do I have my markers, and I can only manhandle this way because I have my stitch stoppers on here. I still needed to know, because each chart or each section of the pattern talks about the right sleeve, the left sleeve, the front, and the back. So I'm really proud of these. We actually had Katrinkles make these. We were the first ones to have her make the ones that have the sleeves on them. So we have a right sleeve and a left sleeve marker. And then we came back to her and said, okay, we also need one that says the front and the back. So I know where I am all the time. That is so handy. And let's see, in the beginning, I did also use this one requires a lot of markers, I'm not gonna lie. If you're like me and you want to make progress, not have to redo, and you kind of do get distracted sometimes. Okay, so these are our right side, wrong side markers. I don't need those anymore because I now can tell which is the right side and the wrong side. But in the beginning, when I was doing the ribbing, I definitely used that. Part of the challenge of this sweater isn't just the jacquard method in that chart, but the fact that it is short rows in the middle of this color work. So just like really just exciting, fun stuff. I mean, it really was fun. I took it with me to a meeting. Okay, so let me just say, while I was traveling, I had 2 legs on my trip. All the way there, I'm getting it. I think I got it. It's not working. I'm like, so the second leg of the trip, I was undoing the whole thing. Had a whole lap full of yarn that I was trying to rewind again. Then I got to my meeting and took my easier knitting that I'll show you in a minute. But next to me was my friend Holly, who was knitting a Fair Isle hat. And I'm like, oh, well, if she's going to do that, I'm going to bring this in, and I'm going to try to bring that in too. So I did. I was doing my short rows and my chart, and while paying attention and taking great notes in my mastermind meeting, where we learned all kinds of other new exciting things to help with the store. So, and Pete, I will talk about the shawl as we get there, and then later on you'll find the link to it also. Okay, so I think that may be all the markers except for we have one more mistake marker. Is that? Yes. Okay. So again, they're harder to see on camera, but we have little ones here. Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't think they'll show up, but you can see them on the website. They have a little Band-Aid and a goat head, and I would put those where I had a mistake, and I knew when I came back around I needed to fix it. That, and I wouldn't dream of trying to do anything without one of our awesome tools. I got one of those in every bag. And then what I'm keeping all my markers in, those are a lot of markers. I keep those markers in my dream box. All my little flowered ones are in here, and then my other special ones so that I can easily get to the flower ones. Now the other ones would fit in here, absolutely. But as I'm going around and I need one to start another float or put one, I want to drop it in that tin really fast. So the other ones have been hanging out in my cork pouch that lays flat. So let's see. those are the things that I'm doing with that so far. Now, eventually I'm gonna have to split for my sleeves, and then I like to use these circular stitch holders to put on the sleeves. I've often used waste yarn. Tip, if you do use waste yarn, try to use something like a linen or something really smooth so that you can easily pull it out or stitch off of it without stitching into it. I've made that mistake. Please don't use dental floss, and don't use dental floss as a lifeline either. I have sat many an hour next to a dear customer and friend who used dental floss as a lifeline and some lace, and it just goes all in those stitches, and you can't, it's not going to hold them firm so that you can tell where they are. What I love about these circular stitch holders, let's see, I've got one right here, is that you can knit off of this end, which is really handy. They come in a long and a short. I use the short for the sleeves. And then you can also has like a little hole here in this cork, so I can kind of do that and get it all up and out of the way. So that's eventually going to be part of what's going on. I've got my yarn cozies going on here to keep my yarn from escaping. And let's see, eventually I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to need to try it on, and I can use the try-on tubing where, whoops, it comes with 3 different lengths, where I'm going to put this tubing on the end of one needle and the other on the end of the other, and then I can stretch my stitches all along there. Let me show you the prettier side. Stretch my stitches along this tubing out, and then I can try it on and see where I am. Sherry says she loves her tubing. So that is a long way to say what I'm doing in my drawing sweater, and I am having a ball. I got to knit several rows on it last night, and I can't wait. It's really fun. I've never done anything like that. I've done color work, but I've never done that jacquard method. And I'll show it to you again. I've never done anything. I grew up in the 70s, and so this seems like, oh, you know, I was a teenager then. This just seems like right up my alley, especially with this kind of fluorescent green, hopefully tamed by the blue down at the bottom. But you know me and my green. Okay, then I've got this other project going on. Okay, these are great for traveling. I had that whole project all put in there too, and I would use that, squish it down, get it, I had these 2 going in my Plystra backpack that I used, and let's see. This is my Harvest Sunset oversized sweater. So let me show you. I've actually finished one section. Let me get it undone here. Okay, so this is, oops. See, I needed to have that on. Okay, so this is either the front or the back. It doesn't matter because it's the same. There's no shaping. So, isn't that fun? Okay, you might look at that and go, that's your easy knitting. It is so easy to memorize. It is really fun to memorize. And you can easily see where you're off. So now I'm in my second section. And again, I've got stitch markers because I'm not gonna, you know, they're like my little guardrails. I gotta make sure everything lines up in the right spot. And once you get going, you can really go to town on that. This, as much as I love my stitch stoppers, I really love this, especially when I'm traveling and pulling my yarn project in and out of my bag because it keeps my needles in there together. I can't use this on my drawing sweater because the circle comes around and there's not enough ease on the whole thing to put the needles into this. Got my yarn in here. I'll show you what it's supposed to look like when I'm done. And Melissa goes, show them the pattern holder. Well, the pattern holder is great. It's really nice. Melissa uses it. As you can see, I'm much more of a wad your pattern up into your bag kind of girl. Here is the sweater, and we saw it in person, and I'm gonna say, as delightful as this looks, in person, it looked better in this yarn. I'm using the Earth worsted 16, which just is so squishy and bouncy, and I think it's going to have a lot more drape than this one. Looks a little more stiff, but the one I saw in person was not like that at all. And so this pattern did not come with a chart, and I don't even have highlighter tape on it anymore. I made a chart to go with it, and so you can see that it's really an easy to memorize kind of thing, because once you've got the foundation, you kind of can see where you are. And so this is my easy knitting, back and forth. So I would have kept going on my drawing sweater, but I forgot the second set of charts because it has a lot of charts. But that's why I knit. I do this for satisfaction and ease and calm. I took this to some doctor's appointments, and the other one is to like really get my brain on fire. So those are the ones. Let's see. There's some special decreases. I'm looking at what else I brought over here. There's some special decreases. Purl. Make one left purl and make one right purl. And I wasn't sure I was doing them right, but this handy book explained all of that to me. So that really helped me too when I was feeling a little unsure. So yes, you can be knitting for decades, own a yarn shop, and still end up with things that you need to know and learn more of. And that's what I love about our community. Okay, what I'm wearing is a Girl's Best Friend, and this is with one set of Monos mini skeins and then one full set of Monos Fino. And these colors are put together exclusively in this combo for Fuzzy Goat, and we will have all of that as kits on Local Yarn Shop Day, which we can't wait to celebrate with you. So that is what I have to share with you today. Thank you for watching me talk about my projects. I was really just so glad to be a knitter. Traveling, I'm just like, we're gonna sit on the tarmac. Oh, well, I got my knitting, right? And it's gonna be with me. It's not gonna be in my bag. Some extra skeins were in the bag in case I ran out. And yes, I did take way too many extra skeins. I did not get to those. But we are here to serve you and helpful, try to be helpful any way we can with your projects to keep you going and keep you engaged and just loving our knitting community. Thank you so much. I'll put the links up for everything I was talking about today.